So if someone's like, oh, I work out every day, but if you're trying to like power lift, at some point your luck is going to run out. Performance in the gym might be pretty high, and then performance everywhere else sucks. And you are, to some capacity, doing jiu-jitsu every day.
You need to do these things to make sure that you can do this for the next few decades.
It would shock people if they came here and saw us lift sometimes. What if the idea was, I wonder what will happen if I could still jump, throw, sprint, lift a little bit 5 years from now, 10 years from now, the same way that I could do it right now.
Proficiency doesn't mean you're really good, that means you're proficient. It's going to be like 2 to 3 years.
It's kind of interesting. I wonder like what the lowest level of input you can give yourself to see results 3 years from now. Right back here.
You see, this is why. This is why every day.
Building the wrist, building the fist, building the fingers.
By 40 years old, my wrists are going to be unrecognizable. All the ladies in the street are going to be like, oh my God, look at his wrists.
Oh my God.
Then my girl's going to be having to bat them away coming from a thick ass wrist.
You ever have your fingers cramp up when you're, Never mind.
Actually, no, I haven't.
But you're like, I'm not giving up on this.
Nah.
Gotta hang in there.
Nah, he squeezed too hard.
That's true. Yeah, what happened with Gordon Ryan?
Yo, okay. So we won't talk too long about this for some of you guys who aren't big fans of jiu-jitsu, but Gordon Ryan dismantled this guy, Patrick Gaudio. Patrick Gaudio was a guy who beat Gordon in the past when, like maybe 5 years ago, when he was still good, but he wasn't as good as he is now. So he wants to, right now he's on a mission to beat all the people that have beat him before, right? So it was a crazy match because he literally got in, he had a prediction for what he wants to do. He had a whole chest, right? And he got in all the advantageous positions during the match. He even got a Kimura, and then he let it go because that wasn't the submission that he wanted to go for. But it almost looked like he was playing with his food because he just stayed on top the whole time. Got to mount, kind of let it go. Got to mount again, kind of let it go. And Patrick Gaudio was on the bottom, who's a big and strong guy. He's 6'2", 225 pounds. Actually, he's 5'11", 225. And he couldn't retain his guard. He couldn't get back. And then Gordon got an armbar, which is exactly what he predicted he would do. And then he sent people to his BJJ Fanatics instructional to buy his armbar instructional. It was a fucking gangster move.
Damn.
Gangster move, man.
I'm so upset. I completely forgot that it was even on.
Oh, did you watch it later though?
No, I just like the highlights on like whether it be like Flow or whatever, like someone like the collab Instagram posts and stuff.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, I missed the whole thing.
It's pretty crazy though, because Patrick Gaudio is a great grappler. You know what I mean? He's a really good grappler. He you watch his matches. He's a great grappler to watch. But there is really a level difference. There's a level difference.
What it baffles me is, we see this from time to time. We see an athlete dominate a sport. We've seen it in bodybuilding. You have Jay Cutler has his run, Phil Heath has his run, Ronnie Coleman. We see it a little bit in CrossFit where people dominate for 3, 4, 5 years. We've seen it many times over in like boxing and in a lot of sports. You see it, but with the health situations that Gordon Ryan has had to undergo with, I guess, his digestive system or something along the lines of that, it's really remarkable how he could be. I mean, it just seems like it wasn't that long ago where he was very ill. It's like bedridden, hospitalized, right? Like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And he's out here just beating the best people as if nothing happened, as if there was no hiccup at all.
And not just, again, it's not even just beating them. It's like
it's like if they're not on the same level.
Not on the same level. Like, let's imagine boxing. If Tyson was boxing someone and they didn't manage to land a punch for 3 rounds,
right,
and then he just knocks him down in round 3, and they never landed any type of no damage. That's how that match was. That's how he made it look. Right? It's pretty cool. It's pretty fucking cool.
That's some impressive shit. Andrew, how's your training going and stuff with backing off from going to as many classes?
Man, I'm really happy to report that it's going very well. I didn't want to back off at all, as you guys know. I mean, we went through this a bunch on the podcast, but basically went from 4 or 5 days to just 3 days and being really strict. Like, hey, I'm not coming in tomorrow. Happened last week, or it's like, oh, dude, let's work on XYZ, and it's like, I'm not coming in tomorrow.
Why'd you make that decision, by the way?
Well, advice from you guys for sure, but also, dude, I was overloading myself even with just information. I would, it's this doesn't happen to you anymore, but there's times where it's like, oh, I'm gonna work X guard, or oh, I'm gonna work a single leg X, or oh shit, I might just go for a single leg takedown. And then somebody starts coming towards you, and I would just deer in the headlights. Oh shit, what am I supposed to do? And I would just blank out and then let them, have their way with me. Whereas now,
take me, daddy.
Yeah, dude, really just have your way with me. Whereas now it's like, okay, let's stick to the plan. Oh, that didn't go as planned. I have this other thing I can do now. Mm-hmm. So I'm able to retain information a lot better, and I'm present. I've said that before, where it's like, oh, I'm so gassed. I'm like a zombie. When I'm rolling in open mat stuff, everything feels pretty good. I'm able to kind of get to the spots that I want to get to, and when I don't, I can respond the way that you should respond. It doesn't mean I don't always like sweep somebody or get my guard back, but I'm doing the right things. And then when it comes to class, I'm like asking a bunch more questions, and like things are sticking. And then on top of that, I'm not, falling asleep throughout the day. Like I'm here, I'm alive. I'm able to come here, do some stuff with the new tib machine. I'm able to work out a lot more outside.
You're like encouraged to do so, right? Because you
absolutely
have more energy.
Yeah. I have more bandwidth to do more stuff, to exercise more, to do all of that. And then another thing, I stopped focusing so much on jiu-jitsu outside of jiu-jitsu. Don't get me wrong, I still love to study things and look at my footage and stuff, but I would watch technique all day long, and I would watch so many different people, so many different instructors, and that it was just an overload. It was too much, and I needed to slow down. Oh, bless you.
Thank you. That's going to be happening a lot today.
Oh, man, we got to fix that. Not joking, you're good. But again, I would have so many things like, oh, I'm going to try this, because I'm like, okay, well, Monday I'm going to do this. Tuesday I can maybe try that, because I have so many more reps. I can get more things going. But I was just banging my head on a brick wall, thinking that I'd actually be able to break through. Versus now it's like, okay, let's calm down, let's stay more focused, and then have just way better intention on the day.
Yeah, you can only get so good at something, no matter how much you try to do it. Yeah. Maybe there could be an argument made that you could get better at something faster if you have good frequency to it. But just like with lifting, there's rules to it. There's rules to everything. In lifting, you have to be cautious, or conscious at least, of some of these factors. You have the duration, like how long it is that you're lifting. You have the frequency, how often do you lift. You have the intensity. You have the overall volume, and there might be some other things to even think about as well. How many sets per body part? How many body parts in a workout? So if someone's like, oh, I work out every day, well, you might want to follow that up and try to understand better what it is that they do, because if they're not lifting very heavy, then that could be very manageable. And if they're doing exercises that are kind of unrelated to each other, that also could be very manageable. But if you're trying to power lift, you're trying to squat, bench, deadlift every workout, there are adaptations that can happen, and you could get better from that. But most likely at some point, your luck is going to run out. And then you would have to do that with better strategy. And that's why there's some coaches out there that will give people programs. And it will be, maybe the main focus on Monday is bench. Maybe the main focus on Wednesday is squat. Maybe the main focus on Friday is a deadlift. And then maybe the next week, maybe those kind of rotate around a little bit. So for your average person that looks at that program, or for someone new, they're not really realizing that each thing's getting manipulated just a little bit, little tiny tweaks. That's what allows you to be able to do those things. But when you're not conscious of those things, it can be really, really difficult. And if you're getting overloaded and overtrained in the gym, then how is the rest of your life? How is the quality of your day-to-day? How is your interaction with your kids? How is your interaction with your wife? And then how are you doing at work? So performance in the gym might be pretty high, and then performance everywhere else sucks. And then at some point, you might get yourself into such a compromised spot that the performance in the gym isn't even good.
Yeah. I think there's something really important here, and I'm want you to mention kind of how your running's been going, because as we were talking in the gym, almost a sneeze. As we were talking in the gym, you were mentioning how Zach Bitter can run 20 miles and it pretty much has no effect on him. But then also when you look at like some of your running progress, like how, like you remember the runs that used to beat you up? Now I'm assuming those runs don't really have too much effect on you. How do you feel like that progress has been?
Oh, yeah, it's been amazing. You know, I think, I mean, any running in the beginning was hard.
Oh, yeah.
Any running at all, like just running for more than 30 seconds or a minute. I'll be like, man, I'm like pretty winded. It wouldn't necessarily like linger and it wouldn't necessarily make me sore. But if I ran for 3 minutes or 5 minutes at a time, once I started getting used to that and being able to run for longer periods, it could be a few hours. You know, I'd be pretty sore for a few hours afterwards, or my legs would feel kind of numb, or my lungs would feel like they're burning. Now I can go on a run every single day almost. Kind of depends. And I do have Zach Bitter helping me with the programming right now. So he is methodically saying, hey, this is like a 3 out of 4 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
This is a 5 or a 6. So I would say it's really rare for me to go above. Occasionally I'll go to like 70 or 80%, but that's really short duration. He has I've been doing his program for about a month. He has programs, I'll do 3 8-minute more intense runs, and in between I jog slowly for like 4 minutes. That's like the only intensity that we have. And then yesterday, for the first time ever, I did a half marathon in under 2 hours. And I haven't pushed on any running. That wasn't even suggested by him. I just kind of wanted to. I just felt good, and it's something I was thinking about for a little bit. So I was like, yeah, let me see, like, because I actually been feeling really slow. I've been so slow in training. Like, this is just killing me. I told Andrew I ran for 3 hours like a couple weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, and it was just so monotonous and so boring. But again, the intensity is factored in there. How this stuff is going to sit on my body is factored in there. And after the 3-hour run that I did 2 weeks ago, that probably took me 8 or 9 hours to recover from. You know, I could, when I finally went to bed, it was hard to sleep. And then I slept and then woke up the next day and I was okay-ish, you know. But yesterday's run, I don't want to say I don't feel it, but it just felt like kind of an intense workout, but it didn't feel like I was running. Yesterday I was literally running about as fast as I can for 2 hours, and I don't really feel it.
And you had a pretty low heart rate too, right?
Yeah, the heart rate was around 140, 145. I think the average heart rate was like 142.
And this is like, the thing is that's a big metric to pay attention to. If you can pay attention to that metric while you're running or even while you do jiu-jitsu and other things, because if you have a really elevated heart rate while you do this stuff, there's a good chance that it's going to be pretty fatiguing to recover from. If your heart rate's at like an average of 165 to 170 when you're doing jiu-jitsu or running, the next day you're going to feel that. Oh, yeah. Most people will. Right? So that's another factor. Your breathing's better, so your runs aren't taking as much of a toll, and you're able to do them more frequently. And the thing I do think is, like, there can be a goal of being able to do whatever that exercise or activity you like to do, being able to do it every single day. Obviously, to varying degrees and varying intensities, but I remember when I started jiu-jitsu, like, I attempted to do it 4 or 5 days a week, but it was only lasted a few weeks before my body was like, nah, dog, you ain't ready. Like, back the fuck off. Back the fuck off or get injured. But by slowly doing 3 days, okay, adding a day in here and there, maybe some days 4 days, some weeks 3 days, doing that for a while, and then bumping it up to 4, bumping it up to 5. But at this point, I can do jiu-jitsu every single day and still do strength training. And my body doesn't feel the effects of jiu-jitsu because my efficiency at moving and breathing is so much better. And my body can handle those stresses, but it takes a good amount of time for your body to handle those stresses. We've talked to countless guests on the podcast about the importance of strong, functional feet. And most people's feet don't function the way they should because of years of wearing narrow toe box shoes that over time weaken the feet and then actually don't allow the toes to function the way they should. Most shoes are casts and the toes don't move. That's why I've partnered with Peluva. Now, Peluvas are flat, wide and have a 5-finger design so that whenever you wear the shoes, you're now getting the benefit of toe space. And that space that's being created through your toes is going to allow your feet to begin to function the way they should, literally all day long. You can wear these shoes while running. You can wear the shoes in the gym. You can wear the shoes while relaxing. Anywhere you want, you can wear Paluvas while getting the benefit of toe space. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at Paluva.com/power project. That's PELUVA.com/power project. And at checkout, enter promo code power project 15 to save 15% off your order. Again, Paluva.com/power project. Links down in the description as well as the podcast show notes below.
And you are, to some capacity, doing jiu-jitsu every day, even though you're not maybe going on the mats every day. Maybe you're not going and rolling with other people, but you're doing something, a bunch of things for jiu-jitsu every day. And it's more than just like, oh, I'm strength training for jiu-jitsu. It seems like for you, it seems like it's even more specific than that because you're working so much on having your body feel better. And it looks like you have like a bunch of almost like performance matrix that you like to improve upon.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu's like, it's interesting because I was talking to you about this the other day. When you look at it as a sport, comparing it to something like, let's compare it to another martial art like boxing. Boxing, there's impact. You do use your hands, but you're standing a lot of the time, and the way that your body is moving, you're not usually in this crouch type of position. But in jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of spinal flexion going on in almost every type of situation. When you're playing guard, you're going to be like this. And then if you're on the bottom, your hands are going to be here, right? When you're on top and you're passing, you're going to have a level of spinal flexion. Your spine's going to be moving in all these different directions.
A lot of those old school wrestlers, especially the coaches and stuff, they're kind of like in that, they're like, hey, what's up? They're in that position all the time.
Like gorilla style. So with that being kept in mind, over time, I realized that like I can't just do the typical barbell exercises with everything, with my spine being neutral and everything, because I have to be comfortable. You know, guys who wrestled since they were young are very comfortable here, naturally, because they've been doing it forever. But someone coming new into a grappling sport, being put in spinal flexion for such a long time and in these type of concave positions, a lot of times their bodies can't handle it and they get injured. And even when I say concave, I mean your spine is in flexion, but then also your hip flexors are coming up all the way here when you're doing a lot of things. And you need to be able to just have this type of dexterity. So that's why a lot of the things I do in the gym, I don't like to think a bit of like super specific training, because then, you know, it always brings me back to Jesse Burdick talking about baseball players trying to use a heavy bat or something, or that's just no. Okay, no. But at the same time, I do think that you should, to an extent, train some of these shapes and put your body in some of these shapes in the gym so you can become strong in these shapes. You can deal with resistance with your back and deep flexion, and even doing some things with extension, because in that sport, unlike other sports where, yeah, there's movement, this sport requires so much dexterity of the spine. And if you don't have that, well, you may just avoid putting your body in certain positions, or you'll get injured when your body is put in some of those positions, like when you get stacked pass by somebody, you know? Good guys in jiu-jitsu, when they get stacked pass, they can breathe and they can move and they can handle that. But if you don't have the spinal mobility and someone stacks you, a lot of guys injure their back, or they just let the person pass because their spine can't handle that pressure.
Easier and faster the less mobile you are.
100%. But you can train that, and I've realized that there are a lot of ways you can train
Somebody
that
goes
safely.
to do it to you, just grab your own feet. Dude. You're like, hey, what are you trying to do? You trying to do this?
I mean, the thing is you don't want to be in that position, but at this point, like my mobility and flexibility through the spine is at a point where somebody can stack me and I'm breathing normally. I'm fine in that position. I can chill there without feeling the stress on my body. But many people, like even when you drill stack passing, you kind of got to be careful with your partner because their spine just doesn't move that way. And then there's the other thing of all of this stuff. Like, I think there are certain things that you can just literally do every single day, because jiu-jitsu is another one of those things where there's an abnormal amount of usage of your hands and your fingers and gripping. Not only are you gripping a gi or lapels or something, but now when somebody's breaking that grip, that's doing something to the tendons in your fingers all the time. And that's why you see guys in jiu-jitsu, if they don't make their hands strong over time, they end up kind of fucked up fingers over time. But if you can have something that allows you to have finger extension and something like this that allows you to do this, I use this shit every day. Your hands can handle those stresses. That's why I never have to tape my hands during jiu-jitsu, because they're strong now. And it's because I train them every single day.
I think it could be simple too. You can just think about, what sport are you doing? And then you can also just think about like, where am I weak? Where could I use more attention? And if you think about, it's hard to think about a sport where it's not beneficial to have your feet be in a better condition, your feet be stronger, your ankles. So, for me, sometimes it's as simple as just sometimes when we're podcasting, I'm just standing on one foot. And I'm, I'll mess around, do some like little calf raises and stuff like that, because that's part of running. It's just to be good on, and have good, strong balance, and feel comfortable on one foot. When I first started doing that, I was better at running than I was just going on one foot. Like I would go on one foot and I would kind of move around with my ankle, and I would be like, that's kind of uncomfortable. Like that feels weak. It felt uncomfortable. Yeah. As opposed to like running, when I would run, I didn't notice it, because in running it just happens like in a split second. But just standing here and doing this now, it doesn't bother me at all. But for a little while, it was weak. It wasn't comfortable.
Same thing here, actually. Like I did have a string of ankle injuries a few years back, and I realized I had that string of ankle injuries because, number one, I'm not running often, so I'm not going on one foot to another, and I wasn't jumping often. I wasn't doing anything on one foot again.
When's the last time, some people that are listening right now, when's the last time you jumped?
Right? So that's the main reason why I started jump roping, because jump roping is low impact on the ankles, right? But when you get comfortable doing it on 2 feet, then you can go on one foot to the other foot, and your ankles are just constantly getting this little pop, 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 pop. But the thing is even though I've just been doing a little bit of jump roping every day, my vertical is increased. Without I do some jumps here and there, but I'm not doing as many jumps as people who are jump training. But I have noticed that black thing on the
where we punch the punching bags and stuff.
I can grab the very top of it now.
That's wild.
Whereas before, I was only able to touch the bottom of it. So from low frequency,
this thing's like 35 feet up in the air, by the way.
Yeah. So, but the thing is I've also noticed that now I have more, I can feel more bounce from my ankles. So I can really kind of bounce off the ground, versus before it was a little more lag time before I came off the ground. And that was just the benefit of jump roping a little bit every day. But that's something that everybody can do. You don't have to have a podcasting job to jump rope. You just can have a rope in your bag or whatever, and on your lunch break or whenever, just do a few hops.
That's something I was noticing too, is that I couldn't even hop on one leg. I was like, well, that's weird. Because in running, you're going from one side to the other, back and forth. And I was just trying it. Does that? I'm like, that hurts. Why does that hurt so bad? Yeah. And I'm like, oh, it's because I'm big. There's so much muscle mass up here. Well, of course it hurts.
Yeah, it's different for you.
I'm like, no, those basketball players, man, those guys aren't
big.
light. And I should be able to figure this out. I should be able to build more resilience. So I've just been working on it, and it feels good.
Yeah, it was a huge wake-up call when we had Brian McGinty in-house. That's honestly where not his fault at all, but some of the stuff he took us through, when we were done, I'm like, ooh, my knee's a little, it's kind of a little tender here. But he had said...
What was it that caused it? Was it when he was pushing on your foot?
No, it was the when we were doing the jumping, the constant jump.
Yeah.
But he said right before that, he was just like, oh yeah, your tibs are weak. And then when I asked him, hey, why do you think my knee hurts? He's like, because your tibs are weak. And I'm like, okay. So now Nsima's looking at me funny because Nsima's been going nuts telling me, I don't know, maybe 2 years now, that I need to start working on my damn tibs, and I haven't been doing it because I'm like, dude, there's not an issue here. And then my knee starts hurting, and so there's an issue here. The issue was always there. It just, I was getting away with it.
Yeah.
So now that it is there, because my right knee's been bugging, I started doing some tib stuff, and it just worked out perfectly that Ben Patrick showed up, and he, dropped off I don't know what the actual
tib machine.
Tib machine.
Is it a Sornex?
Sornex
Yep.
something.
Okay.
I'd look it up, but my computer's broken. So now I'm doing that, and it's weird, dude. It feels like I have a sheet over my left knee, which my left knee doesn't hurt at all. My left knee is good, but it feels like it's even more protected than it was before. So
like a sheet in a good way.
Yeah,
okay.
it feels like a protected sheet protecting something. I don't know what it may be. And so my right knee is actually feeling really, really good too. It's still like bugging towards the end of the day. But again, it was one of those things where it's like, nah, we're good here. And then I jumped and it was like, are you serious? Like, I haven't had knee problems since like junior high. And here we are because I jumped like 10 times in a row. It's like, oh my gosh, dude. Like, so yeah, it sucks that I needed that to wake me up. But it was, I guess all things considered, it was a really good wake up call.
We need to invent like tib shoes. Like shoes that have like a little thing that have like a little area to put like to load some plates.
Yeah, a little hook.
And then you gotta like like a little thing for a little plate holder, and you gotta like walk around and get those tibs going.
Yeah, because you can't drag your feet because you'll just trip.
You're just like walking down the hallway and you're like, my legs are on fire.
But
one more set.
Okay, so a few things. This is why, again, I think everyone should just get a fucking jump rope and start jumping, because when we think of the idea of jumping, what we were doing with Brian on that day was intense.
Yeah.
Intense jumping. But jump rope is low intensity, just hop, hop, hop. You don't have to go super high. You can just build that. Like, if you can do that, then over time, you'll probably be able to jump a little bit higher with comfort. But because you're getting in so much volume, you can do so many little jumps, right? That will add up on the feet, that'll add up on the ankles, and that'll add up on it'll add up chain. So just start doing that low intensity, and it'll pay such big dividends. That's why I do it every day.
It's nice to have a rope because you have like a challenge, like jumping over something. But you could literally just jump back and forth over a crack on the ground, and you could go side to side, or you can go forward and backward, and you can just, you don't even necessarily need a rope. But again, it's encouraging. It's nice to have that, because then you can work on it. You can do like double unders, and you can work your way into being able to do some different things, which are great because they challenge you more. But even just doing some of those pogo hops and really trying to, as Brian was pointing out when he was here, he wants you to kind of like hook the feet almost downward, like you really flex the toes. And that was actually challenging for me to do that. And what I noticed was that I had to push really hard with my toes. And then as I pushed hard with my toes, I had to almost get a little bit of flexing in the shin, in the tib, to like pull my toes back to where they needed to be to land, And so it was interesting. You get a lot of work with your feet. If you ever have an opportunity to be on some sort of surface that's soft, obviously that's going to like blunt the way that you're going to be able to like jump. But it might work the shit out of your feet. Like every chance I can do this on a beach, it's amazing. But you could also do it in some soft grass, or if the grass is wet or anything, it's like kind of a nice opportunity to bounce and jump on there.
And if for some reason, like, let's say that you are trying to do some single leg hops, because some people, like, it's really difficult for them to hop on one leg. You could literally have a surface next to you and use that surface to kind of like help yourself balance on one foot.
Hold on to something.
You could just like, that'll make hopping and bouncing off of one leg a little bit easier, because sometimes balance is hard. But then that's literally regression. After a few days or weeks, you'll be hopping on one leg without an issue, right? But dude, the tibs, it's crazy. If you guys are able to, first off, you can do it on a wall. So Ben Patrick showed that before, where you like just do tib raises, raising your feet on a wall. But if you can get that single leg tib bar, that thing is really fucking good.
You still have that guy come over your house and kick you in the shins? Or did you discontinue paying that guy?
I stopped paying him.
Okay. He got too expensive.
Yeah.
He got a little wild too, right? It's like, bro.
Yeah. You remember what we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast? Exactly.
Like I said the safe word an hour ago, and you're still going.
Yeah.
But you got some big tibs over there.
Yeah, nah, tibs be fat as fuck, dog. Real chicken juicy. Nah, but the tibs isn't something that you want to fuck, like you want. It makes a difference. They make a very big difference. Even like when in jiu-jitsu, think about close guard. When you do close guard, a lot of people just kind of have their feet forward. But if your foot is dorsiflexed,
you make a pretzel out of it.
Exactly. And in a lot of positions in guard, when you're playing guard, your foot isn't like this. Your foot, you're dorsiflexed, and you're in this type of position, right? So that means that you need strong tibs for this position. It's one of those things that you don't think about, but like it makes a difference.
That's again. So going back to like I was getting away with stuff. Like I've been told that I got sticky feet because like I will activate my foot and like they'll try to like whether it be a back step or whatever, and I'll just hook into their like inner thigh. And it's pretty cool because like, oh, okay, cool. Like I'm in a bad spot. I know it's a matter of time before you get past my guard.
Yeah.
But I'm making it pretty difficult because you thought you were going to get past me really easy. And now it's like I'm making you work. So again, it was like, oh, I'm all right. I'm okay. But so now it's like I'm even more pumped for like what's going to happen with, working the tib. You said a single leg tib or single foot tib, which
I think it's we have it in the gym. I'm not sure if it's
like
from
the monkey foot one or
tib
not
bar?
the monkey foot. It's not the tib bar that has the two legs. It's the tib bar that you have a single foot. And you can put your foot in there. I'm not sure if it's from home gym guys or it's not the animal pack hip flexor thing.
That thing's really nice though. The one that just goes on the single foot, because it like if you're not used to that thing, be careful how much weight you put on there.
Because 5 or 2.5 pounds, being real.
Yeah, you hook it to your foot and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it like I see people, and then it feels like it's going to rip your whole knee off. It's nuts. You're like, whoa.
Like,
and your leg just hasn't, it's unfamiliar territory. You haven't messed with that just yet. So yeah, start out super light. But what I like about that one is it does take your whole leg into account. And there's so many different ways. I mean, you could probably think of thousands of ways to utilize that one piece. But if you put your foot like at the end of a bench, what I noticed is that my right foot from an ankle injury from a million years ago, it doesn't like to be flexed all the way away from me. It's like I get some tightness in like the Achilles or something. So that stretch is actually really good for me. I need to take my foot through that range of motion. So that feels good. But then also like doing circles with it and moving the feet around. These are all things that I do. I do all the stuff at my house.
Yeah.
I do a lot of the stuff at my house. I'm like moving my toes. Brian, he said that my toes suck, so I've been like trying to work on these like toe curls. I'm like, that motherfucker comes back, he's not gonna ever have seen toes like this before.
Yeah, he's in for it.
And I'll sit, I'm just like wiggling my calves and my feet, and I asked my wife, I'm like, does this annoy you? She's like, nah. She's like, I'm not. I'm watching the TV or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not bugging anybody, I don't think, but it's
That's
something
cool.
that I don't know. It gives me some training while I'm just sitting there doing not a whole lot.
Real quick, I think that the important thing to think about here is whatever sport it is that you're doing, if it's powerlifting, if you're trying to pick up running like Mark's done now for a few years, if you want to do jujitsu, I know that you all have jobs too that you do outside of this. You have family, you may have kids, but you need to do these things on the outside of the gym and the outside of that activity to make sure that you can do this for the next few decades. Because like the video we talked about before where that guy was like, oh, jujitsu saved my life but ruined my body. At the end of that video, he said something along the lines of like, I don't know how long more if I'm going to do jujitsu. I might not be able to do it in the next few years. And it'll turn into that thing that I used to do. And he said that as if it were an inevitability. But I think the only reason that is an inevitability for him is because as I was watching the video, I was paying attention. The guy wasn't doing much strength training. He didn't seem like there were a lot of good habits set outside of jujitsu to keep his body resilient for jujitsu. So if the only time you are training is in your sport, meaning you're only running, or powerlifting is a little bit safer because at least now you're resistance training. But with that comes, well, how do you move? How's your spine
Only
move?
powerlifting, is a mistake from a overall health perspective. At some point, you can do it, periodically, but
it is one of those things though that if we're thinking about like, okay, if I only had to do this for the rest of my life, you could probably manage a bit better than that than if you only did jujitsu, because the demands that jujitsu and these things put on your body, if the body isn't strong over a long period of time, you will not be able to do this for a long period of time. So you need to take that into account. And that's why we're kind of psychos when it comes to some of this shit, because we love it so much that we want to do it for the next 6, 7 decades. We don't want to just have fun with it now. And then in the future, it's something that we loved to do in the past, but our body can no longer handle.
That's been the biggest driving factor for like trying to go slow is I did not want jujitsu to be that thing I tried that one time. Like I do not want to say that ever, So that's why I've been like, all right, let's slow things down and let's think about, the 10-year plan or whatever it may be. One of my buddies got promoted today. One of my training partners, he got from white to blue.
Cool.
And, so like super proud of him, happy. And I'm just like, yeah, dude, like we're going to support each other till the belt turns black. And he just got off more fired up, and I'm like, yeah, that's the mindset that we need to have. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's amazing to be able to go through these sports and to accomplish certain things. But imagine you're like, oh, there's Nsima, you got a black belt, but then you're like limping around and you're all jacked up and you're hunched over. You're like, man, remember when he did that? Like that shit was sick. Like if that's the price, then like I'm out. Like I don't want to have to pay that price. Now look, we're all going to roll the dice. Like you compete at a really high level, and who the hell knows what happens.
True.
At those really high levels. I've had over 1,000 pounds on my back. Like these are risky things, but they should be within your means. They should be things that you have a capacity for, but they're also things that you're not always doing them. And I think that it would shock people if they came here and saw us lift sometimes. We might have some sessions that have more intensity. We might have some sessions where, yeah, we do load some weight on. We actually perform like a normal squat. We're not doing something weird, balancing on one leg or something like that. But for the most part, we're doing stuff that we feel is going to make us feel better. And I think that nowadays, when I start to think about things that are going to make me feel better, it's not necessarily loading up a 1-rep max bench press. It's not necessarily doing 5 sets of 5 of deadlift and then doing heavy bent over rows after that, and then doing heavy RDLs after that, and then doing the reverse hyper and the glute ham raise. Like to me, I'm like, whoa, okay, all that stuff was amazing, and it served such a great purpose to build the strength that I was building. But now I'm just like, all that stuff is going to, for what I'm doing now, it's going to make me really, really tight. It's going to make me walk around all screwed up, as if I was that washed up like athlete or something. And I don't want those inputs anymore. So now it's like, okay, the reverse hyper is a great movement. Deadlift's a great movement. RDLs are great. All these bent over rows, great movement. Let me do them stretched out in the course of a month, not just one workout. So that's kind of the way I look at stuff now, but I think people would be surprised. We were talking with Kurt Ingford in the gym, and Kurt is working on another version of Bigger, Stronger, Faster with my brother. Kurt worked on the first one. He also has worked on like Bowling for Columbine and a bunch of other famous documentaries.
9/11.
9/11, yeah. And yeah, he's done some impressive stuff, but it's great to see him taking care of himself. And he said he was observing some kids in the neighborhood, watching them jump around and bounce around and all this stuff. And he was like, man, like I want to be able to do that again. And so rather than him saying, oh, I'm 61 years old, like I have no business doing any of that, he started to do some of that stuff in his backyard. He started to work on some jumping. He's also very active. He's got like a pond in his backyard, and he's making like a rock wall, and he's just very active with his own like landscaping and all that kind of stuff.
It says bear crawling back there.
Yeah, he said he's bear crawling, but he's moving these big ass rocks around and stuff. And so I was showing him some stuff today of like, you shouldn't really have to think about it when you're moving a rock. But since he had some injuries and stuff, I said, let's have you figure out a way to utilize your glutes when you're picking up some of these rocks and picking up some of these things. And it was awesome to see. Like his mobility was good. His strength was good. I had him throwing a med ball. And it would be great for more people to start to recognize, to try to keep some of those things around from when we're young. Like forget for a minute about getting better at anything. Forget for a second about losing weight. How about you stay the same weight? That'd be a good, like
hold on, bro.
Yeah. How much did a lot of people weigh when they were 18? Maybe some people were maybe they were very heavy at 18, but with the exception of those few that were really heavy at 18, what if you were the same weight as when you were 18 or 20 or 25? Maybe we should stop always trying to, I'm going to get better at this. So I'm going to max on this. I'm going to go hard on this stuff. What if the idea was, I wonder what will happen if I could still jump, throw, sprint, lift a little bit, play some sports. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, the same way that I can do it right now, not get better at it and not have it get any worse. But you're not the guy who's like trying to get something out of the cabinet in the upper thing by trying to move your one arm with your other arm that's half broken too.
Pat Project family, we love beef on this podcast. We talk about it a lot. All right. We love our meat. But sometimes eating the same meat all the time can get a little bit boring. That's why we partner with Good Life Proteins, which also has certified Piedmontese on their website. But sometimes you might just want to eat some chicken or fish or duck. Duck. Who eats duck? But you can eat duck. That's why if you go to goodlifeproteins.com, you can select their Build-A-Box options and input all the proteins you want. Then you'll select subscribe and save to save money on all of your meat. If you enter code PowerProject at checkout, you can save up to 25% on your subscription. That means you're going to be saving 25% on all of that different meat that's going to be heading to your door. Once again, head to goodlifeproteins.com. You can enter code PowerProject and save up to 25%. Links are in the description box below, as well as the podcast show notes. The really cool thing there is that, like, again, it's increasing the time horizon of how long it takes to get good. Because in the reality is like, you're not going to be very good at jiu-jitsu a year from now if you started last year. Like, it's going to take you for proficiency to be like, a blue belt level, somebody who's gotten a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, because that's where most people also quit, right? Yeah. A blue belt means like you're pretty proficient. If you did quit jiu-jitsu at blue belt, you're proficient enough, right? Yeah. Don't let that be you. I know. Don't be the guy who disappears into the bushes.
Well, I mean, so someone gets the blue belt, and then it's hard to make more progress once you get the blue belt. So they split, or do they split like when they get the blue belt, like as if it's like I achieved this is cool enough, I'm out.
The amount of instructors that have been like, yeah, that's when we lose most students, because like blue belt will take most people like 2 to 3 years, you know, like that means you're proficient, man. But like that's when a lot of people are like, all right, cool. And they're back after maybe the next 5 years or something like that.
Yeah,
it's high percentage.
Yeah, because it's like the thoughts. This is like the memes that I've been like seeing, but it's like, well, I'm good enough to kind of handle anybody on the street. And it's like, I already know everything I should know in jiu-jitsu. And they're like, yeah, I'll just, take a day off. And then that day off turns off into a week into a month. And then it's like, fuck, I don't want to look and see everybody. So
you get a girlfriend. And
oh, yeah. But also, from what I'm understanding, is like at white belt, someone like Nsima, or maybe not so much Nsima, but like an upper belt will be like, all right, yeah, you're understanding, you're trying to figure things out. Like, cool. You get a blue belt, and it's kind of like green light. Like, all right, you've committed to jiu-jitsu. You still don't really know anything, but you've committed enough to where, like, I'm going to put it on you now, and you're going to learn real jiu-jitsu.
Oh.
So then once they had this.
I think people need to get demoted is what I'm learning today. hey, but give me that blue belt back. Take this. Trade in for this white one for a little while.
That's real though.
No, yeah, because also the other thing is it's like, oh, I'm a white belt and I'm getting away with all kinds of dumb shit. And then all of a sudden you get that blue belt and it's like
everybody magically becomes better.
Upper belts are like, okay, now you understand. So all right, here we go. So then your competition level all of a sudden, like you get this rank, but then everybody is like, all right, cool, we're up here now, you know?
You know in video games when like you play a game and then you beat it, right? And then there's new game plus with an increased difficulty.
Yeah.
That's what like
there's more monsters and everything goes a little faster.
Yeah. So that's when like Call of Duty and like
I'm out at that point.
I played the game once, why play it again?
Exactly.
That's so true.
Yeah. Call of Duty used to do it really well where you would like, I don't remember the ranks, but let's say like 0 to 9, and then you get to that 9th one, you're smoking everybody. But then you get to 10, and now you're with the 10 to 20 ranks or whatever. So then you're back at the bottom of the thing. So it's kind of like that. But yeah, no blue belt blues for me.
Yeah, but yeah, proficiency at almost anything. Proficiency doesn't mean you're really good, but it means you're proficient. It's going to be like 2 to 3 years. Even kind of gaining a decent amount of muscle from when you start, you give yourself 3 good years, you will look impressive if you've really been going at it, right? So it's like that's what we got to be looking at as far as like the time horizons of doing this. But not many people really think that far out. They're thinking, if I want to be good now, I want to get better now. How often do I need to train to do this now?
It's kind of interesting. Yeah. I wonder like what the like lowest level of input you can give yourself to like see results 3 years from now. You know, like let's say you're lifting, let's just say your arms are like, I don't know, like 14 inches, and you lift for 3 years. You're not really like training so hard. You're not doing the prescribed X amount of sets per week per body part type thing for hypertrophy, but you're just training. You know, and there's all this science and research that states all these facts about hypertrophy training. But if you're training for 3 years and you train your arms like consistently, like once a week, even if it's just a couple sets, and even if you don't train them that hard, your arms will probably be bigger. Like your arm probably went from 14 inches to maybe 15 inches without really, I mean, especially if you're a younger male and you're like a teenager. I mean, there's so many things going on that your arms are probably going to kind of grow anyway, right? But from a little extra exercise. So I think our idea is always like we're trying to just get like stronger, and we want to see, we're trying to get better. We want proof that we're better. But I just kind of wonder sometimes, I mean, I've been running tremendously slow, you know, and I know that running doesn't compare to every single thing else, but running and lifting are pretty similar, where you can use lighter weights and you can be very, very strong. If you learn how to lift the weights properly, there's certain ways to lift weights that you could use 40% of your max, 50% of your max, 60% of your max, depending on the person, and you can get very, very strong utilizing those kinds of weights. So I just kind of wonder, I mean, let's just think of any topic. I mean, let's just pick a language. You know, what if you want to learn a language? What if you just kick around like learning this language just a little bit, maybe once or twice a week? You go from knowing zero Spanish to understanding some over the course of 2 or 3 years, and maybe you're not, you know, sitting there having conversations with people in Spanish, but you're going to be able to understand it. You understand certainly more than you did 3 years ago. So it's interesting because, like, I kind of view myself as somebody that always wants to get better, but it's not even really true. I'm not really necessarily trying to get better. I think, in search of stuff that interests me, and I'm in search of things that are kind of challenging because I know how rewarding they are in the long term, and I know how they're going to feel.
Yeah,
that's what I really dig a lot. It's not necessarily just it's not necessarily getting better, but as a result of all that stuff, you end up getting better.
Let me ask this then. When you were an athlete when you were younger, you played football, but when you started doing running, what does that 10-year, maybe down the line, scope look like? When you think about running, the things you're doing right now, what are the long-term abilities that you're seeking?
I would just say, for now, I'm really enjoying being able to run and then have it feel like nothing. Have it feel like nothing hurts. So that's actually been like a goal of mine recently, because people keep asking, like, what's your goal? What's your goal? You're going to run, you can compete, you're going to do a race. And I'm like, no, I just want to be able to run faster and have it to feel like I didn't barely even work out.
Yeah.
I did a half marathon in under 2 hours the other day. But the world record by Kipchoge, he did an entire marathon. That is unbelievable to think of. I mean, that is a absolutely insane fucking world record.
Yeah.
And I realized, like, he weighs like 130 pounds, and he's been training his entire life, and he's running at altitude for many, many years. Like, there's just so many factors in there, right? I'm not even trying to compare myself to any of that, but when he runs, they have done some, I don't know what kind of studies they've done on him, but they basically say that where his heart rate is, and by measuring some other metrics, when he got done with running, it's almost as if he's not exercising at all. And if you see his face when he's running, you're like, kind of looks like that. Kind of looks like he's just sitting there reading a book almost. I think you posted Noah Lyles a couple days ago sprinting too. Same thing, just this real stoic look over them. So my goal is to be able to continue to be more proficient with running, because I think there's something that's really, really fun when you can win, when you start to win. And I don't mean win a race. I'm not necessarily talking about that. But it's got to feel good for you to walk into a jiu-jitsu academy. It's got to feel good for you to walk in and to just know how proficient you are. Not necessarily like, oh, I'm better than everybody here, or I'm good, or I'm great, or not so much that. But it kind of doesn't matter who rolls with me. Like, I'm going to be able to handle myself pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident in that. And every once in a while, you run into like a buzzsaw, you run into some maniac person who's amazing.
And that's fun.
See, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun, right? So maybe when you first started, it probably would have been fun, but probably in the middle somewhere, probably like not so fun, because sometimes maybe it shows you like, oh man, I thought I was a lot closer. I thought I was a little closer to being like on this level, and that guy just showed me like I am nowhere near.
You got work to do, son.
Yeah,
you got work to do, son.
Wow, that's interesting. I'm nowhere near what I thought I was. Maybe I should quit.
Saying, quit.
Hey, you did that pretty good.
Hey, I learned from the best.
That's right.
Learned from the best whiteys.
You see?
You know the cool thing though, and this kind of hit me the other day. How can I put this? Most sessions of jiu-jitsu kind of feels like meditation. When I say that, it feels relaxing, because most people that I roll with, I don't have to expend a lot of energy to deal with them, and because of that, like when I finish, I'm like, I feel so calm. I feel so chill, right? Even when doing it, it feels chill, because like over the years, I've got better at nasal breathing, and I just got better at just allowing my body to kind of relax when doing it. So like now jiu-jitsu.
I wonder what sushi I'm going to order off.
But when I realized that, I'm like, yo, this is why I really think that this is a lifelong type of thing. Because if every time I went to jiu-jitsu, afterwards I was like, oh God, I was like, my body was beat and I was just tired and wrecked, I wouldn't be able to manage that. But now, and I'm continuing to improve, of course, but I'm at least at a point where I go into jiu-jitsu and it just feels like a relaxing experience. That's what it feels like for me at this point. Still learning, still progressing, but a lot of the time it's just so relaxing, you know? And that's kind of how like we almost look at training sometimes. Some days we really push ourselves in training, but like usually you train and it feels good. Doesn't mean like you can fall asleep while doing it or whatever, but it feels good.
You get done. You don't need the cold plunge and a massage and 17 other things just to recover from that. And if you are banged up at all, what do we do? Like, how do we maintain it? How do we work on that? We come in the gym and we lift.
Fast release.
Come in the gym and exercise, move around,
yeah,
and start to feel better from it. Yeah, it's really fascinating how devastating stuff could feel when you're new. You forget about, like, you know, there's people that start to think too. They were thinking, you know, the starting on Monday kind of thing. Like, I'm going to start my diet on Monday. I'm going to go to jiu-jitsu on Monday. And they have like regular jobs too. You know, they got jobs where they have to be there 40, 50 hours a week. It's like, man, that's a really crazy, like that's a really large commitment. And then you're trying to bite off a little bit more than you can chew. And I also think that people are going maybe too intense on stuff. And it's probably hard for people to accept this or understand this, but a lot of people that are really proficient at what they do, it is so rare for them to go 100 miles an hour. It's so rare for them to go 100%. As many times as people hear stuff like this, I don't think it really registers. But look at Usain Bolt, like in the Olympics. You could say like, oh, he only goes as fastest in the Olympics. It's like, did he? Did he go as fastest in the Olympics, or did he stop and just like look to the side and celebrate and slow down, right?
How many world records did you do that with? I know it was the first world record. He definitely did, but was it the other ones too?
At least 3 or 4, and he's got good reason, because he
oh dog.
he was always like ridiculed a lot, and he lost a lot. He lost a lot of times before he got to that stage. So I think he was like, fuck y'all. plus the gene therapy that he got, that probably didn't hurt. I'm just kidding. I
Right.
made that up.
A little bit of false
But
statin, huh?
You always hear weird rumors about all that stuff. But it is really rare for people that are really high level, to go 100%. And just with my running, I would say like even yesterday's run was probably like it was probably like 85, 90%. Like if I would have went like 5% harder, I would have went like 5 to 10% harder. I would be concerned about what the recovery would look like from running that hard for 2 hours. Like my body's never done that before. So if my heart rate was like 150, 160 the whole time, that would have been a little sketchy. But like I said, in general, in my training, I got to probably say that 85 or 90% of it is done at a really low intensity. I mean, how often are you going 100% on anything? I mean, even the kettlebells and stuff, like you're using some weights and stuff. I mean, like what,
Yeah.
on a scale of 1 to 10, like what's your perceived effort on a lot of stuff most of the time?
The thing is like, for example, with the kettlebells, I was doing some double flips with the 20 kilogram yesterday. But the cool thing that as you get better with bells and as you get better at juggling, you want to let your body hang almost. Because a lot of people, if you watch them swing kettlebells, you notice that there's like, they're gripping it hard and then they're muscling a lot of things. But like now, because I kind of just like let my body get long, I don't grip the bell hard. It's almost like the bell's kind of just hanging in my hand, right? It doesn't feel tiring because
I like what you're saying, because there's not that much movement when someone's just doing a kettlebell swing. When someone's doing a stiff kettlebell swing, there's not nearly as much movement as you would think.
Absolutely not. But the reason why it doesn't feel as fatiguing is because I'm not muscling the kettlebell. I'm not muscling it to flip it. I'm not muscling it to swing it. It's literally, I'm letting the momentum pull my body in these different directions. So it doesn't feel like a crazy amount of effort, even though there is effort going on. It's easier to do because I'm not hard gripping everything when I do it. And you notice like people that look really good when they're doing it, like Colin Daring, Jared Cardona, there's a difference between when you see them do it and when you see other people do it. Other people, like there's a stiffness to the way that they're swinging the bell or doing their snatches and stuff where you're like, I mean, it looks good. But then when you see Colin and Jared, their body's unlocked. Like they can get to the longest ranges without feeling any type of without feeling vulnerable. Their body's not vulnerable in those positions because they're now strong in these really weird positions. And because of that, all of their movements are super smooth. So I think that's one of the reasons why now jiu-jitsu doesn't feel as tough, or jiu-jitsu isn't hard, because like I'm not really muscling things with my body. It's unlocked. So my body's able to kind of access everything rather than me muscling things. And you'll also notice that with newer people when they do jiu-jitsu, first off, their breathing's going to be off, but then because they're trying to really push and pull and whatever, they get tired in like 2 or 3 minutes. They gas hard. But when you become proficient and efficient and your body's unlocked, you can kind of just like, you move with the momentum, you know when you need to do things, you know when you can like push and move it. Movement efficiency is just so much better. So I guess I don't remember the last time, even in jiu-jitsu right now, as far as training's concerned, I don't know the last time I've gone 100% on somebody. I think the last time would be Marigali when I was in Houston, Austin. Yeah.
But that's not good, right?
What do you mean?
That's not good when you have to flash that card sometimes, right?
That's great though. The reason why I did go 100% is because I was working with somebody that made me go to 100%. The reason why I don't go to 100% in training is because I'm never pushed to a point where I have to put 100% output. You know what I mean? So it's like, and also I'm 250 pounds. So like, with a lot of, I don't have many training partners that are at that weight. So I'm not going to put all of my pressure on somebody who's like 210, 215 pounds. It just doesn't make, if I'm doing that, that means my jiu-jitsu isn't good, right? So that's another thing. It's like my goal in training is what is the most efficient way with wasting as minimal energy as possible that I can tap this person. That's my goal. I don't want to just tap them. I want to tap them in a way where it really wasn't didn't feel like too much effort for me. And if I can do that, that means my technique is getting better. And if I'm forced to go to 100%, like with Marigali, I'm like, that shows how much work I need to do.
Would you recommend that for maybe some people that maybe feel behind? Maybe their conditioning isn't awesome, and they find that when they do have to push really hard, that they do get winded. Do you suggest for them to? I know you're doing the kettlebell flips and stuff. Do you suggest, from a conditioning perspective, for them to maybe use a different tool? Obviously, like getting on the mats is super important, but you can only get on the mat so much.
Yeah.
You think there's some tools outside of that they could utilize with a good duration on like a echo bike or something like that? Because I know you have like sprints and different things that you've done on there. I don't know if you do as much of it as you used to, but you've told me some of the workouts on there, and they sound pretty intense.
Yeah, doing sprints on the echo bike, so like intervals on that, where it's like maybe you have 15 seconds hard and then a minute to a minute 15, or if that 15 seconds really takes it out of you, maybe a minute 30 where you're off. Doing that for maybe 5 cycles to start and maybe 10 cycles in the future, that will be really good for conditioning. Also, I think a big thing is when doing any of that stuff, trying to keep the breathing in the nose. Because short term, it's very difficult for a lot of people to nasal breathe on everything. Long term, it's going to be the number one thing that serves you. I was so pumped, and Andrew remembers this, when we were at Henzo Gracie in Austin, and Nicholas Marigali was watching the people in the class roll. He stopped everybody and he was like, you guys, a lot of you guys, I see you rolling and your mouths are open. You're going to gas out. You guys need to learn how to breathe through your nose. And I was just like, this is a guy that his focus is jiu-jitsu. I don't know how much reading and stuff he's done on nasal breathing, but even when you watch him roll, you notice like he's not gasping for air. When he's exerting, he's not, everything's in here. And initially, it's a hard hurdle to get above if you haven't been nasal breathing when doing exercise. But as you've noticed, Mark, running, like it's probably much easier now breathing since you've learned how to do that through the nose.
It's unbelievable. It's made a huge difference. I just think, rather than like people worrying about the data and the science and this and that on what's coming down the pipeline about it, or what Andrew Huberman or somebody says about it, like rather than being so focused on that, I think just try it. Like, please just give it a shot and try it. And if you implement it in a workout, you'll find it's going to be really frustrating. You're going to be like, man, screw this. And I do think that when you start, it's okay to go back and forth. Like do what you need to do. Like don't pass out. Don't push it that hard. But, start to see if you can push it a little bit over a period of time so you can progress at it.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed with it is that from nasal breathing just in and out of the nose during exercise, is that it helps me get better faster.
What do you mean?
It helps me get better faster because the workouts aren't so difficult that I can't recover from them. If you do want to go on a sciencey side of it, check out some of the stuff from Brian McKenzie. And Brian McKenzie will tell you that when you're opening your mouth, you're blowing out like lots of carbs, basically. You're utilizing a lot of fuel. When you can breathe in and out of the nose more efficiently, you're using a different fuel source. You're using your fat. And so it's again, like worrying about the science of it, like check out Brian McKenzie, check out some of the stuff that he talks about. Him and Andy Galpin wrote a book together where they discuss some of the stuff as well. And you can get deeper into the weeds of it. But if your input is too hard on the exercise that you're doing, it causes chaos in the body. Your body's like, your body doesn't like that input. There's something in boxing called sparring partner syndrome, where if you box somebody, if you're a journeyman boxer and you're mainly used for sparring, you don't think that you ever have an opportunity to win because you're a punching bag.
Yeah.
You're basically always getting your ass kicked. You're basically always having to punch up and everything's like too intense for you. And so even if you had the ability to be better than another guy, you wouldn't even recognize it probably. So I think you got to be really careful with the inputs that you give your body. In that case, those guys, they get paid to kind of get their ass kicked and to give the guy a decent look. But they also the challenge is too hard. They can't. They literally are not going to get better. I mean, maybe they'll get a little bit better, but they're not going to get so good one day that they're all of a sudden they're whooping that other guy's ass. It doesn't happen that way because their input is too chaotic. They fight too many people too often that are just the next level.
Way better than them.
And they're getting their ass kicked without really a lot of explanation and coaching.
I hate to sound like a broken record, but your sleep quality most likely sucks.
Aww.
It's one of the biggest things that we talk about on the podcast. So many guests have come on and talked about how sleep can help you stick to your diet, stick to your workout plan, lose body fat, gain muscle, all the good things that you're trying to do, but it's hard to do because you might be snoring. And if you're snoring, that's why we've partnered with hostage tape, which is mouth tape that you can put over your nose, your mouth, when you're asleep to help you stop snoring and breathe through your nose. But if you have been breathing through your nose this whole time while you've been sleeping, it's going to be a little bit difficult to get air through there. That's also why hostage tape has nose strips to help open up your nasal airways and make it easier to breathe through your nose when you're asleep. Now, your partner won't be having to with you when you're asleep because you'll be actually breathing through your nose. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at hostagetape.com/powerproject, where you guys will receive an entire year supply of nasal strips and mouth tape, all for less than $1 a night. Again, that's at hostagetape.com/powerproject. Links in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
On the note of that sparring partner syndrome thing, that's why like one of the best ways that like you can improve in jiu-jitsu is like having some training partners that are at your level, and at a certain point after you've done it for a while, there are going to be some people that you definitely know are at a lower level than you, where you can try out new techniques. And then having the people that can really push you, that will help you out so much. So whether you artificially put yourselves in situations that are bad for you and you push yourself, that'll be good. But that's one thing that you got to think about, because if you're like the guy who wants to train with the toughest guys in the room all the time, but the toughest guys in the room are constantly murking you and you're not able to work anything, that's just going to be a tough way you're going to have, what is it called again?
Sparring partner syndrome.
Sparring partner syndrome.
You can't recover from it. And then on the flip side of the sparring partner syndrome, everybody knows this one too. There's the practice All-American.
Yeah.
Right? That's Andrew. Andrew's all pumped. Andrew's like lining up like in football, in high school football. Yeah. Some of the other players like they're trying to give us a decent look on defense, and they line up in the hole that you're running the ball to. You're like, yeah, I know you know the play, you fucking idiot, but come on, Christ's sakes, like will stop me from doing it. You're like, it's kind of hard when you ran to the play before we even ran it.
Yeah. Yeah, those training partners are not fun in jiu-jitsu either. Or it's like, hey, I'm going to go for the single leg X or whatever it is. And then it's like they go to stop. Like, I don't know. They don't give you like a real like reaction to it, it seems like sometimes.
What do you mean?
Like, I don't know, dude. Like if I'm telling you like, oh, dude, I really want to go after your left leg because I'm setting up on that left side. You just never like you keep putting your right foot forward or something, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Or just it's because I'm so new, I can't think of like an actual like terminology of stuff. But like I have seen this where it's like you're all right, let's drill this, and then they're just like, I'm gonna block this at all costs. And it's like, but we're drilling it like it's a little give and take.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, you don't want me to win right now. You're trying to be the the practice world champion.
Let me actually mention something. You probably already do this, but the thing is like if you're sparring with someone and they know what you want to do, of course they're not going to let you do it. Like, because that's just like, why would I put myself in the situation he wants to be in? So if you are really trying to work on single leg X and you know that it's going to be hard for you to get there, just do specific, like say, hey, let's start in this position and let's like, you can do whatever you want from here, but let's just start here. So at least you have more repetitions in that position, because your training partner isn't doing anything wrong. If they know you want to do that to them, why would I let you do it? Right?
Gotcha,
It's not bad on their part. It's just like they're sparring. They want to tap you as much as you want to tap them. So they're not just going to give you their leg because you want to work it. You have to tell them, hey, I want to work this position. So let's do specific training starting here. And then let's do, if they get out of it, they get out of it and you continue the roll. But at least you can start there, because they're not doing anything wrong technically by not letting you get that leg.
Gotcha.
You know?
Real quick, back to the Marigali thing and the nasal breathing. I forgot the exact words he used, but he was like, you're doing it wrong if you're breathing through your mouth. Like you're basically like, a thing that has nothing to do with breath, the technique. He's like, you aren't doing it right if you're breathing through your mouth so hard. I thought that was really cool. But what I wanted to ask you, Nsima, like, because when you started jiu-jitsu, you weren't specifically nasal or exclusively nasal breathing, right?
I didn't learn about that till 2016 after I read Patrick McEwen's book.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, did you have to almost kind of take the intensity down to focus just on the nasal breathing, or... You know, because like for me, like I can do it, but then I'll get to a certain point in the I don't know, second or third roll, whatever it may be, or even deep in the first roll that I'm in. Yeah. Where it's like I'm doing good, and then I'll go for an explosive movement, and then work, and then you kind of the slight lull, and then it's like. Like I'll take a deep breath because I can no longer hold my breath through my nose.
I get what you're saying.
So, but I'm thinking in my head, if I stick to strictly nasal breathing, it'll put a rev limiter on how much I explode and use energy and stuff like that. But I'm just wondering if that happened to you.
Yeah, there's a few things. So initially, like nasal breathing will be something you think about when you're rolling. You know what I mean? Like just like Mark. I mean, I'm assuming when you started running, like. When you were changing up your form, you were thinking about the form, and then at a certain point, it just became second nature, and you don't think about that anymore. So for most people, they're going to have to think to keep their mouth shut, right? Mm-hmm. The second thing is because they're not efficient at breathing through their nose, they're going to open their mouth sooner, and it's going to happen. And you shouldn't try to stop that from happening, because if you need to open your mouth to breathe, it's either that you are expending so much energy right now that now your mouth needs to be open so that you can actually keep rolling, and you shouldn't force it shut, right? But that also means like, okay, now you need to probably try to get yourself in a position where you can reclaim your breathing. You have to, because like if I ever get in a situation where I'm like, that means I need to get to a place where I can have a few seconds of a and then bring it right back to the nose, right? So don't keep your mouth shut if your mouth is like open, dog. Don't force it shut, but do your best to have your nose be the primary way you're breathing for as long as you can before your mouth opens. Because there's going to be some rolls where you really get pushed. It's like your opponent's pacing. Like maybe you're rolling with a wrestler who doesn't slow down the pace, and like you're also increasing pace. Okay, let the mouth open. Do that, right? But just realize that a majority of the time you're trying to be able to breathe through your nose, and then it's going to get to a point. It'll take time. Could take a year. Could take two. Where pretty much it's going to take a lot for anybody to get you redlined. It's going to take a lot for you to get to the point where your mouth has to open to roll, So
I think maybe a good place to push it would be, work on it in the gym. Work on it with something really simple.
Sled.
Yeah, the sled. Maybe you're just doing like pick a simple bodybuilding exercise, like lat pull downs or something, and do 4 sets of 10 reps and take a minute rest and see if you can control your breathing that way. And if you're having a hard time with it, just lighten the weight. Like make the activity easy enough. Maybe pick another exercise in between that. Maybe do squats on like a bench. So 2 really easy exercises, go back and forth, 1 round of it. See if the whole time you can nasal breathe. If you rather than not forcing it in this case, like force it a little bit. Just go ahead and force yourself to do it a little bit. And if you need a little extra rest, then that's fine. Or if you need to lower the weight, that's fine. But do your best to stick with that. What I've learned from messing around with a lot of nasal breathing is that if I start to lose, I call it like getting locked in. Like I can get locked in. It's really nice when I get locked in with my breathing and my running form and whatever it is I'm listening to kind of all at the same time. It's like, everything's just going really, really well. It doesn't always work out that way. But what I have noticed is that if I start to breathe more erratically, then I'm going to have a harder time returning back to nasal breathing. So one thing I think is important for people, like when you go and do an activity, just be kind of cautious on how hyped you get yourself. This doesn't happen with running because the run is so long that I can't afford to like get all fired up for it necessarily. Although I do listen to like David Goggins and stuff. I do listen to motivational stuff here and there. But I just remember with lifting, like I would do like a set and I'd be like And we didn't even, we've got 135 on the bar. And part of that is because my cardio wasn't great, but it's also because I'm amped up.
Yeah.
And I probably had like a pre-workout or caffeine and all these things that you might do on your way to jiu-jitsu or on your way to the gym. When you go to try to practice, it's going to be that much tougher because you already kind of are redlining yourself.
Yeah.
So I would also just pay attention to, like, in a particular workout or in a particular jiu-jitsu session, if you start to end up in a place where you're getting some really good rolls in and maybe you're doing an exercise where they're bringing fresh people in and shit like that, you just have to abandon it. Like, don't get so worried about it that you're like, oh man, I got to really work on this nasal breathing. Like, just utilize it when you can, as much as you can. And on days where the pace is slower, go, oh my God, like we're almost done with the class. I'm going to see if I can make it the whole class with nasal breathing only. But you don't have to be, the person in the gym that's not talking at all, because like, yeah, Andrew's nasal breathing today, so he can't say anything. You're fucking over there sign languaging people and stuff.
That'd be sick.
You don't have to be that crazy about it.
But that is a really cool thing. One of the reasons why I think your runs aren't beating you up as much, and why jiu-jitsu isn't beating me up as much, is like I use my Whoop to track my sessions. My heart rate is on average like 140 to 145. Even on my harder rolls, like it's not really getting it that much higher at this point. So that's why, because like I don't know who mentioned this to you, but nasal breathing kind of puts a cap on how hard you're going to expend yourself. And if my goal is to be as efficient as I can with my movement and the way I deal with people, then that also means that I'm going to have to be pretty calm while doing it too. So that's why my heart rate doesn't really get that high, because I'm able to do that being efficient, right? I do want to go back and mention two more things, because you mentioned the conditioning for jiu-jitsu. The bike is great. If you have access to a sled, the sled is fucking wonderful. Like you just mentioned, that's a piece of equipment that you can pull a sled, you can use I can't wait for people to learn more about like what you can do with the shake strap handles. What's the long one called though? Because there's obviously the orange shake strap, but you don't know.
I got no idea. Slingshot.com and pick it up.
If you go there,
we also sell a sled as well.
There you go. If you go there and you pick it up and you have such a gym, you use this attachment. There's so many ways that you can pull. There's so many ways that like you can have the sled behind you and you're pushing the sled here or with your arms above. But if you can start doing some of this stuff while breathing through your nose or while trying to breathe through your nose, that's another way where now you're getting some resistance training in, but you're also training in your aerobic capacity on the way that you breathe. And then the last thing I was going to mention was doing some type of complexes. If you have a jump rope, and I do this like randomly all the time, but if you have a jump rope and maybe you have a kettlebell or something or whatever type piece of equipment, you have a slant board at home, doing some jump rope and then doing some goblet squats on a slant board or doing some swings or whatever, but just trying to keep everything through the nose and trying to just keep a pace while breathing through the nose, that's going to help you be able to have that capacity to breathe through the nose with intense exercise, because it's just reps of doing it. It's not going to feel comfortable initially. Then it's going to get to a point where you're not thinking about it as much, or you're not thinking about it at all. And then it's just going to be the way in which you breathe when you train. And then when it's at that point, you've unlocked something really special.
Yeah, pay attention to it. Even just your breathing throughout the day. When you're in the shower, or you're changing your clothes, or like whatever the hell it is that you're doing, you'll find yourself, you're like, man, what am I doing? Like, why am I holding? I find that sometimes I just hold my breath. I'm like, why would I hold my breath? Like, if you asked me to hold my breath, I'd be like, no, I'm good. But I'll randomly sometimes just hold my breath, and I'm like, just keep breathing, man. Keep breathing. So just work on it, and you're going to start to recognize when you're more conscious of it, you're going to recognize that you're probably breathing like erratically almost all the time.
I remember a situation with an ex-girlfriend, actually. I had this was my early 20s. Whenever I had headphones on and I'd be working, I'd start breathing through my mouth without realizing it. So I'd be like working, and then it'd be like,
start snoring.
But like she told me about it once. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then one day I was working. I was like, what the fuck?
So offensive when it gives you that news like that. You're like, nah.
Yeah, like I totally do that. But that kind of showed. That showed how fucked it was at the time, you know? Like, it wasn't, breathing through the nose wasn't my general mode of being. And I didn't, like, even when sleeping, my mouth would drop open. So that's why mouth tape and taping your mouth at sleep, because that's 6 to 8 hours where you could be breathing through your mouth. And if you're trying to get better at breathing through the nose, you need to be breathing through the nose while you sleep. You have to be, you know?
Easy. Yeah.
Yeah, people would see me, a couple months back, I would throw on the hostage tape for the runs because I wanted to be able to actually like know that I didn't cheat at all, you know, because it's easy to cheat it a little bit here and there. You're like, oh, I'm just gonna, sip a little air here and there this way. Like, no, let me do it with the tape on and let me see if I can actually get this done. And what that made me do, rather than like just forcing the nasal breathing, it would make me stop running, which is important. Like at that point, for me, that was the smartest thing to do, was to have the duration of the run and to keep my heart rate in a particular zone. The guys that are really good with running, they'll get so patient that if they're on a trail, they'll just start to walk uphill rather than run. Even some of the best guys in the world, Zach Bitter and all these guys, they will walk. If they'll look at their watch and they'll be like, oh, time to walk. Because they know that over a period of time, that higher heart rate, if it's done day in and day out, it's done constantly, that they're going to get an injury, that something is going to go wrong. And on top of that, they're not getting the kind of conditioning that they're actually looking for. You want to be kind of in that zone 2 cardio, which is always confused for some reason. I don't know why, but people think that like walking is zone 2 cardio. It's not enough. Walking is awesome and it's great, and don't be discouraged. Do your walks, but it doesn't put most people's heart rate in a high enough range to be in like a zone 2 cardio. But zone 2 cardio is what you're looking for because you're trying to build out your aerobic capacity. You build out the aerobic capacity and every single thing in your life gets better. And there's been so much discussion and so much talk more recently about strength training, the value of strength training. And I love strength training. Strength training has a ton of value. But your cardiovascular health is still really, really important, and it's getting neglected even by people that are in fitness. So it's something, and I know I just hopped on the train of doing it more recently. So like, oh, well, look at him. Now he's talking about it. I'm late to the party. I admit that. But it has a lot of value. So like just figure out ways of implementing some of these things that we're suggesting. They'll help a lot.
Yeah, I got a lot to work on. But another thing is also like just calming the mind too. Because, again, some of these things like in jiu-jitsu, like they take a long time, but then stuff starts clicking. It's like, oh my gosh, that worked. Or setting up a submission and you're like, oh, here it is. And then you build all this up. And then when it doesn't work out, you're just like, ugh, and there's like a adrenaline dump almost in the roll. And it's just like, then my breathing is just out the window. So that happened Friday where like, oh, this worked, like the X guard sweeps and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is working. And then I'm like, why am I out of breath? Like, this sucks, because I would just get super amped up and excited to, do it again. But then it's like, fuck, dude, I can't breathe. So I got to calm everything down.
Yeah. Even when you want, like, the match that Gordon Ryan just had, if anybody watches that match, watch his breathing and then watch Patrick Gaudio's breathing. Like, Gordon's mouth is shut the whole time, unless he's responding to a fan that's saying something in the stands or something.
Really?
Yeah. People were like, there were people yelling stuff at Gordon, like, Gordon, finish him. I have 20K on this right now. You finish it in 5 minutes, and then he just like say something, but his mouth was shut the whole time, right? His mouth was shut the whole time.
I'm gonna have to watch it.
He's talking to people in the crowd.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Hey,
He's
man.
like giving a seminar. He's like, okay, when someone does something that he was trying to do right there, that's how you block it.
You're like, and watch, and then I'm going to do this, and his reaction is going to be this, but this is how you counter the counter. And the guy's like, fuck.
Like,
That's unbelievable.
people may hate his antics and the way he markets things, and like even I find some of it just kind of like, damn it, like, well, you're so great, why? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it cannot be denied that the man is an extremely fucking great grappler. Like, he is a great grappler because, we had Nicky on.
He's untouchable right now.
He seems to be untouchable right now, right? We had Nicky on and he said steroids. And even though Gordon uses steroids, it doesn't take away that, like, he's not using strength in everything he's doing. If you even watch the way he moves, it's not that he's fucking, it's his efficiency and his technique. It really is. The guy's just that fucking good.
Those steroids making up for technique.
Yeah, man.
Follow statin.
Follow statin.
He's on that shit.
Oh yeah, guys, go to Discord. Go to the Discord. We haven't mentioned that in a while in the podcast, but go there. We're gonna we do stuff from here and there in the Discord. So yeah, go to the Discord. Links in the description.
We've talked before about, strength training and even like hypertrophy training, how we believe, we don't have an opportunity to go back and know and to figure out what would have worked really well for us when we were younger. All we have is stuff moving forward. But I'm a pretty big believer in, I wouldn't even say like all, but I would say that if you kept a lot of your training period, any kind of training that you're doing, if you kept a lot of that training mainly in the nasal breathing zone, I think you could build strength. I think that you could build hypertrophy, maybe at the highest levels in terms of strength due to, you might find it beneficial to have like a cadence where you kind of let out like noise, or you let out like a when you're doing certain exercises, and especially when it comes to doing things explosively, like that may have benefit, the karate kaya type of thing. That there might be, there's some stuff to some of those things. And you hear boxers, they kind of make some noise when they throw their punches and things like that. But for the most part, I think when it comes to strength training, hypertrophy training, I think that you could be very, very safe doing a bodybuilding protocol, doing a powerlifting protocol, and get everything that you need from the workout without overdoing it. So if you're trying just to think of like, oh, I really love lifting, but man, am I kind of overdoing some of my stuff here and there? Just maybe utilize some nasal breathing from time to time when you're lifting.
Oh, when you think about, the way you used to lift, how often do you think you're breathing through your mouth? Do you think that was like what you were doing most of the time?
Well, that's how I was taught, right? So like you do a seated row, and you breathe, there's like a cadence that you breathe like with the way that you're moving the weight, right?
Gotcha.
So I didn't have knowledge about, that I could probably do that through my nose when I was younger. I also, I took some information that was given to me, and then I was like, it was like cement that got poured, and then it turned into concrete. It's like somebody, I learned that, and I'm like, that's the way you do this. When you do a seated row, you do it this way, and you blow out on the concentric or whatever, and you breathe in as you're pulling the weight towards you, and your back has to be in this position, and you want to slightly arch up the chest, and you want to drive the elbows back and down, and then I just always thought like that's the way you do a row. And now if you were like, how do you do a seated row, I'd be like, how much time you got? Like what are you training for? Like how do you want this to work for you? So a lot of those things I learned when I was young, especially when it came to like breathing, blowing the air out on a bench press as you're pushing the weight up. Those are things that I was like, this is the rule. This is the way this has to be done.
Yeah.
And then I saw time and time again, though, I saw these like little traces every once in a while of somebody just like etching away at my beliefs with stuff that I saw. Because I saw like outliers, and I saw a bunch of different people being able to do all kinds of different things. Stan Efferding, when he would squat, his feet were pointed out really, really wide, like on this crazy angle. And in my head, I'm like, that's wrong. Like he can't squat that way. But then I saw him squat 800 for a double that way, and I saw him squat 850 for a double that way. So it was like, you can squat. And I remember one time trying to show Stan, because his back kind of rounded during one of the squats, which never happened to him because he did a great job of staying upright. And I was like, hey, on this next one, let's have you bring your head up more and like see if you can like look more straight ahead. And he looked straight ahead, and he was like more wobbly, and the squat just got like really ugly, and we just took it from him. We didn't even give him a chance to lift it because it just got really weird. I was like, sorry, that was wrong. I was like, let's lean into what you already do. So I said, rather than like looking kind of down, he would look kind of down. I'm like, bring your head all the way down and like look directly at the floor. And he's like, okay. And he went down and he made all that noise. He would let air out on the way down and squat. Yeah, whatever the hell he's doing. And he'd get to the bottom and he just, boom, he exploded up with it. And I was like, all right, well, there we go.
Yeah.
And I would never really teach someone to like look straight down between their feet while they're squatting. But that's what worked for him. That's what allowed him to keep his back in the position that he needed to.
Whoa. He was looking straight down between his feet when he was squatting, or was it like a little bit ahead of him?
Almost like looking down at like your dick. But he, he squatted with that wide stance, and so he basically was taking his upper body and putting it through his like lower body. Yep.
He was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that just feels so weird with the neck.
Yep.
Interesting.
Well, his back would still be like flat. His chin would be like kind of packed in, I guess you'd say. Yep. That's it right there. Yep.
Okay, I get it. Because you said the chin was here, right?
Yep.
That makes sense. It's not like he's just like, It's
Yeah. It's more of a.
That was crazy. You mimicked that perfectly. When I looked over and your hands were out wide, I was like, dude, it looks like fucking. That's whoa.
He's a good
crazy.
mimicker.
Holy shit. That was weird.
No, but
I don't want Nsima making fun of you. He might be able to mimic your walk or your something that you do like too well, and you're like, fuck. Got me.
Like, dude, you're mimicking me. I thought you were mimicking Michael Jordan. What the fuck? This is strange.
Oh, man. That beef between you and Stan got kind of funny. That shit was good. That fucking post was
always going.
You know what's hilarious is I had to search for that footage because I'm like I know there's like a little period of time where I beat him on a couple things, but of course it was when he was long retired, so I never had an opportunity to beat him on much of anything, but. When you do beat somebody like that, you remember.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, I think it was at the old gym and like...
you had a whole team on it.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, Ryan, let's mess with him,
It's funny though, you say you're running like a 90-year-old Asian lady. Like 80-year-old Asian lady.
It's an 80-year-old Asian lady.
Why does he pick Asians specifically? Like, why?
That's what somebody else wrote. And what someone else wrote. The people are so funny on the internet. The internet is amazing for stuff like this. So the one guy writes, "Why's it got to be an Asian lady? What's the difference if she was white?" And the guy wrote back, and he's like, "No white lady in their 80s is going to be running at all."
Oh, hey, he has a point.
It's like an Asian lady's going to be out there like working their face off.
To all the white women, we're not talking about you.
We're talking about the work ethic of Asian people. It's high. Not saying it's higher than anybody else, but it's up there.
Everybody has high work ethic.
Yeah.
Some maybe more than others, but individualistically, of course, not because of their ethnicity. No.
We do not see color. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.
If you guys enjoyed this episode, click this one right here with Mark Sisson. He's been training literally every day for maybe the past 10 or 11 decades. You heard me right. So click it. He's also a competitive athlete. He looks amazing for being 102 years old. You're going to enjoy this one.